Thank you, Madam President. Before I begin, let me ask unanimous consent that following my time on the floor, that the senator from Pennsylvania, Senator Casey, be the next Democratic speaker in line.
Without objection, so ordered.
Okay. Madam President, I came to the floor for a specific purpose, but I had the good benefit of listening to the distinguished senior senator from West Virginia's holiday greeting. And it was a very warm, loving greeting as well. And I'm glad that I made it to the floor to listen. I thank him for his incredible service in this institution and for taking those moments to talk about our humanity collectively. And this is a great time of the year in which that humanity gets to be recognized so much. So,
incredible senator who now holds the floor and speaks with such aplomb and dignity befitting a Roman senator.
Thank you, Senator Byrd.
God bless you.
Madam President, as we celebrate this holiday season with our families, as we gather with those we love and give thanks for our tremendous blessings, we remember how incalculable the losses have been to the families of the 3,888 soldiers who have been killed in Iraq. Their losses cannot be tallied, not in the number of Christmas nights spent without the one they loved, not in the number of days since their wives, husbands, parents, and children left home forever. We cannot calculate the strain on the 28,661 wounded soldiers and their families, many who will be spending this precious time of the year in a military hospital, coping with their blindness, living with only one leg or arm, sleeping through nightmares of the battlefield instead of the beautiful dreams they used to know this time of year. As we hold them in our hearts, as well as all of the men and women in uniform across the globe who serve to protect the country and to promote its interests, for which we have eternal gratitude. As we hold them in our heart and express that gratitude, we also watch our money slip away from us in Iraq. That is a casualty we can and must count. Madam President, I've come to the floor over the last 2 months to talk about what is the cost of Iraq to us here at home. Here at home. These lives cannot have a price to them. And the sacrifice of they and their family do have no price. And the human suffering for those who have been wounded also has no price. But there is also a price that is calculable here at home. And it is what the war is costing us, not just in dollars from our treasury and on the next generation of Americans, but what it is costing us in lost opportunities here at home. There is a brutal holiday irony that is no cause for festive spirit in Washington. The irony is this: President Bush and his Republican allies in Congress held hostage some key investments we need to make right here in our country, using so-called fiscal responsibility as an excuse in order to extract a promise of more money for the war in Iraq, asking for more than $150 billion more for Iraq next year, but at one point threatening to starve the entire government of funding over a difference in the federal budget that amounts to less than 1/10 of what the president wants to spend on the war next year. He was ready to shut the whole government down over the difference of what amounts to less than 1/10 of what the president wants to spend on the war next year. This holiday season, we wondered if President Bush wanted to be Scrooge to America and Santa Claus to Iraq. Over the last several months, I've spoken many times about what the American presence in Iraq is costing us here at home. The true costs of the $455 billion we've spent on that war and the $10 billion per month we continue to spend might never be clearer than they are right now, at a time when Congress debated the budget for almost the entire federal government. While we've been here crunching numbers, American families are feeling the crunch of a few numbers themselves. The interest rate on their mortgage that is about to jump beyond what they can afford. The price on the gas pump when they fill their tank. The price of heating oil and natural gas. Higher grocery bills. Fare hikes or threats of hikes on public transportation. And the skyrocketing costs of providing medical care for themselves and their children. The President's consistent threats to veto funding for federal government operations forced across-the-board cuts to programs and services that so many Americans are counting on. This winter, as snow and ice fall on roads across America, people are waiting for better ways to travel. They're waiting for expanded, affordable public transportation, progress on efficiency, and new sources of fuel and power. They're waiting for our nation to fill our energy portfolio with something other than the usual energy sources. The omnibus spending bill the Senate approved this week would inject another $1.7 billion in the development of renewable sources of energy, like solar, wind, and geothermal. And it's an important step, but it could have been much greater. Republicans have consistently objected to bigger steps. They said weaning us off fossil fuels is too expensive. Meanwhile, they have insisted that oil companies need more multi-million-dollar tax cuts. And meanwhile, we spend enough money to pay for that entire renewable energy package in Iraq in just 5 days. In just 5 days. Energy independence for our country, stopping giving foreign countries that wish us harm the ability to have the resources to make that harm happen, and that we could have funded for 5 days in Iraq. Those are the choices that we make.
5 days.
5 days, Senator Byrd. Cancer patients going through the dark winter of their illness are waiting on life-saving treatments that only intensive scientific research can discover. Congress has a bill before it to fund that research, but President Bush vetoed the funding once, and his allies in Congress have whittled it down as much as they could. The cost of funding increase for that cancer research to turn the winter of their illness into the spring of possibility, $329 million, or less than 1 day in Iraq.